If you leave people to just make up their own decision, they'll probably go for the wrong one. I thought I was doing the right thing. I knew it shouldn't be sat on the floor, but that is then turned into a vape going into the back of a vehicle, which has like lots of flammable stuff in it anyway, potentially. And then that vape has cracked, the lithium battery has had exposure to air, and it sparked and it started a fire, and now we've got a burning truck.
Welcome to What a Waste, the podcast that protects you from fines, failures, and fallout of poor waste management, and gives you clear, simple steps to stay safe, compliant, and confident. We're here at Environmental Solutions in Newbury, and imagine a standard office bin. Someone throws a battery in there, it gets crushed in a compactor, sparks, and suddenly the bin lorry is on fire. Or imagine a single bottle of cleaning fluid leaking into the ground, contaminating the water table and shutting down your site for weeks. Today, we aren't talking about data, we're talking about immediate physical danger. One item in the wrong bin can injure someone instantly. Today, we learn how to stop it. I'm Darren Draper, and I'm joined by Gareth Ward. He's the man with a genuine passion for environmental safety. After 20 years in the industry, he has seen hazardous waste mishandled in ways that would make your toes curl. He has probably stopped more accidental fires than most firefighters. He is here to keep your staff, your business, and even your water supply safe. Gareth, welcome. Gareth, you've seen injuries, the fires, and the leaks, but what is it about this side of the job, the hazardous side, that keeps you awake at night?
I think it's the potential dangers, environmental impacts that it can cause, but also the solutions that we can provide that can just alleviate all that stress for the clients. That's what really gets me going, I think, with it. The awareness and knowledge around certain substances and materials that people use on a day-to-day basis, whether that's at home or in the workplace. I question how much people are actually aware of the items that they're dealing with, the actual symptoms that can be caused from some of these chemicals. There's some crazy stuff that we have in the world. And again, I think it's as soon as you start using something on a day-to-day basis and say it hasn't made you gone blind, you would just assume it's fine. And it's that sort of false sense of security that people are led into. Yeah. So that's where we kind of position ourselves, is to create that awareness.
Yeah, I think most of us, when we hear the word hazardous, I guess we imagine that green slime in movies. But we're just talking about bleach bottles and things like that, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, there is a multitude of substances and materials. I deal with some materials and look through some safety data sheets, and when I'm getting onto the toxicology reports on them, I question it, and I'm like, why did you create this? Other than just to cause death and destruction. But there's an application for it. And again, it's going back to our conversation on the electronics industry. This is what you've seen just explode, if want for a better word. But there needs to be new materials, new substances created in order to withstand the high temperatures, the data, the electrics being sent across boards. There's so much that goes into it, and so many chemicals and materials that add to it, that's where it becomes, I think, confusing, and a myriad of instances where you can just go wrong very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, just before we went live, you described hazardous waste as like having a dangerous pet that you forgot is dangerous because it's small, quiet, and cute. So walk us through some of those common culprits. We're talking about vapes, aerosols, old paint. What else?
Yeah, so you've got things like on a day-to-day basis that you would use. Fluorescent tubes is a massive one. Going back historically, you've got asbestos. What you've seen in history, 1871, I believe, was the first act that they brought in with the environment and people in mind. And it was to do with burning, and it was to do with coal, and it was to do with coal smoke, and it was the Clean Air Act. So again, what tends to happen is everything's fine until it's not. until they started realizing that people were getting horrendous coughs and they were getting lung conditions and they were dying. And then they link it back to this smoke and everything that's burning. So obviously when you're in the middle of an industrial revolution, you are utilizing everything that's available to you. All of a sudden you've got machines, you've got steam engines, you've got nice heating in your house, you've got these nice things that everybody wants, but it's not tested in the market, it's not tested in the environment. We haven't done this before. And what is fascinating for me as a bit of a historian, when you look at waste, there is a direct correlation between our industry and the development of it and the creation of waste and different waste streams. And as the world has evolved, waste streams, or rather the substances that do then become waste, has evolved and become essentially nastier and things that we have to handle in certain ways. I think the downside to it is that a lot of these substances are extremely good at what they do. So from the point of the people using it, they need another substance to supersede it. There's a particular chemical that they use to clean aluminium, and that is going to be taken off the market because it is so nasty. It's a carcinogenic. It's an oxidizer. So basically, it will just react with air if left out and will start to burn naturally. But it cleans aluminium better than anything. And if you're sending aeroplanes into the sky, you need to make sure that aluminium's not corroded and all the rest of it, so I can see where it is. But if that is the reality that we have to use this substance, then we need to make sure that people that are touching it are aware of it, not only for their personal health, but also the dangers of it, because it is a 5.1 oxidizer, but also how to handle it, how to dispose of it. They're fundamental parts. But again, because you've had this onset of explosion of industry and manufacturing, if you like, it's the health and safety and the environmental side of things just takes a little while to catch up. And that's kind of where we are now. And you can see that with the evolution of, say, take 1871 Clean Air Act, fast forward it to the Environmental Act 2021. So that's a more future proofing going forward, whereas the original acts were more like, something's wrong, we need to change something now, quick. And that's what happens. And then, like I said, you have amendments come in as it makes it more relevant and also easier to enforce.
Yeah. So we're talking about what a lot of people have heard about, like asbestos, where actually it was really good at what it done, but the longer it went on, we started to really understand the effects and the negative effects it could have on us, as the humans, the users, and starting to put those safety measures in place. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at, with my dangerous goods safety advisor hat on for some of the dangerous goods that we will run, there's 3,000 or 4,000 substances in my manual. Yeah. 3, like minimum 3, if not nearly 4. And you wouldn't have heard of any of them, but they're probably in or around you most of the time. And that is a reality, but we have that all documented. So again, the goal of any of that stuff is, whether it's dangerous goods, whether it's hazardous goods, that we put systems in place that remove that worry and take the heat away from the client, and we'll teach them as much as they need to know. Yeah. But that'll be enough to protect them, their staff, their business, their environment.
Because I bet that list is so long that in general, some people are just putting that in the general waste bin. Yeah,
I mean, I can't learn the list. That's why I have my manual, so that I can look up specific things. But again, if you've got zero awareness and you've got a waste item, we have been taught since we were little to put stuff in the bin, and that is what we should do. But then, like, the simple bin, like the Keep Britain Tidy, the one that we did like 40 years ago or whatever, that's gone now. We still want to put stuff in the bin, but now it has to be the right thing in the bin, and make sure you don't put that thing in the bin because that might contaminate the rest of the bin. And this is where the minefield comes, right? And this is where the confusion comes for people, and they're just like, what do I do?
So if you're listening and already wondering whether your team is handling hazardous waste safely, we're running a webinar called Hazardous Waste, What You're Getting Wrong and How to Fix It. Simply go onto our website at eswm.org.uk/waterwaste to find out more. Let's talk about consequences. So first, the human cost. Paint a picture for us. What happens when an aerosol can gets thrown into a general waste crusher? What is the risk to the person standing next to it?
So we've got a couple of things. You've obviously got a pressurized canister. You've also the substance inside it. So that could be a hazardous product inside it as well that could cause skin irritation. There could be a toxicity level to it as well. But what you've got in the short term really is you've got moving parts working under great pressure. You've got metal components moving against each other, i.e. the bin lift and the blade in the back of the compactor truck that squishes everything together and compacts it all. Now, what you don't want in that situation is pressure, splitting and extreme heat, which can all be caused by that. So you are going into the realms of if someone's standing at the back of that truck and we have that perfect storm, an aerosol goes through it, it's crushed, it explodes, we've got shrapnel flying out the back of that, we've got whatever substance was in that aerosol potentially on someone's skin, in their eyes, on a client site. It's not a great look, is it, for anybody involved really, and something that I'm very passionate about not going anywhere near. So we have to educate people that, and we need to make sure people know what the dangers are of it and how to deal with it. It's not difficult, but again, what I find is going back to school, all the rest of it, if we're learning something and we don't understand the application and we don't understand the why, then are we going to take that on? Yeah. And are we going to make it? Are we going to own it? And my response to that is, unless you know, you're not going to.
Yeah, and you know, we can just have that lasting impact on a human being by not dealing with our hazardous waste correctly. So that's the human cost. What's the legal implication?
Depends on what the injuries are, what people have affected, how it's going to affect their life going forward. I mean, you've got to think of this sensibly. A silly, lapsed, uneducated, unaware decision has potentially made someone go blind. We're all like, if you're in a company, it's one team. So like, why would you want one of your team to go down? Why would you want a group of your team to go down? Why would you want any of your team handling something that they don't know the implications of what they're handling? You know, this is why the laws are in place. This is why we have the Carriage of Dangerous Goods Act to protect against this thing. And I would bet my bottom dollar that there is a very, very high percentage in this country handling hazardous wastes that have not been trained to handle hazardous waste.
Yeah. And by hazardous waste, we're not just talking about bins, are we? We've got this invisible things such as the water table. You know, people forget, I guess, that water goes everywhere. Yeah,
I mean, you've got a multitude of, I mean, the original acts we had was for air, land, and water. As it evolved, and what you've got to, when it got to the Environmental Act of 1990, is you saw a unification of all these things. So you had air, land, water, and then the introduction of waste. So waste didn't come into that like your standard waste. Hazardous waste, dangerous stuff, that had already been, you know, with the onset of petroleum, that brought in the acts of handling stuff. And then it also, the act says petroleum and similar. So things that were like, they started to understand that things were flammable. They started to understand that things could explode. So this is where the unification of it meant that we were all singing on the same hymn sheet. And I think that's where you see advantages of things like GDPR that we talked about, a unification of policies, of acts, of regulations, legislation, so that we're all singing, we're all on the same path, we all know where we're going. And that is fundamental. One of the things I have from clients when we're talking about bins, for example, is that we've got clients that live in Berkshire and we've got clients that live in Hampshire, and we're talking like private residents here. So the bin collections, the bin colours, and they're different in both shires. So like, that causes confusion for people. So like the more you can standardize it, the better. It gives understanding. What we are trying to do is that if our clients have multiple sites, if they go to one site, it's exactly the same setup as the second site, same as the third site. So it doesn't matter where you are. And that all then leads back to their original training and competence, and just avoids the potential for mishaps like that. But that's only on the standard one. With the hazardous waste, it's just another deal really. And are people aware of what they're handling? That's my main concern with it, I think.
Yeah, I think the process is a really interesting one that people think they've got it nailed, they've got the information on how to deal with it, and you go to another county with a new set of rules with some different colour bins, suddenly people don't know the process and can make a simple mistake that they didn't know they were making.
Yeah. So that's it. It is just, I think, equipping people with the tools to make those decisions. And like what you'll find is, if you leave people to just make up their own decision, they'll probably go for the wrong one. I don't know why that is, but it normally happens. So this is where, like, when you hear those comments, I was just trying to help. I thought I was doing the right thing. I knew it shouldn't be sat on the floor. But that is then turned into a vape going into the back of a vehicle, which has like lots of flammable stuff in it anyway, potentially. And then that vape has cracked, the lithium battery has had exposure to air, and it sparked and it started a fire, and now we've got a burning truck.
And it's scary because it's invisible really until it's too late.
They're so small, and that's the reality of it. And I think there's maybe some of that because they think it's so little. It's like, what can it do? It's only a little vape, but literally you need a spark and a little bit of a flame. The volatility of lithium, when it's excited in the wrong way, is crazy to see. It really is.
Yeah. And if any of this feels real daunting, visit eswm.org.uk/waterwaste to book in a free site visit with Gareth, who can talk you through exactly what he sees, where the dangers are, and how to fix them quickly. No judgment, just safer processes. So Gareth, we're going to have a little bit of a test now. So I'm going to fire some items at you. And if you could tell me hazardous or not,
okay,
and most importantly, why.
Okay.
So let's start off with a disposable vape.
Okay. So not a hazardous waste, but is classified as a dangerous goods, class 9, because of the lithium in it and the danger of lithium and the ability for lithium to start a fire pretty much out of nowhere. You got the nicotine in there. So nicotine is regarded as, in pure nicotine, an acute hazardous waste because of the poisonous factor of it. So pure nicotine will kill a human, will kill animals, will do pretty horrendous stuff really. But in the small volumes that it is in a vape, it is regarded as safe in that respect. So really, when we're talking about a vape, we're talking about a dangerous good. And I would say of all the dangerous goods on there, when you talk about your cute little pet that doesn't really cause any issues, your vape is a tiny little fluffy dog with a wagging tail and a massive samurai sword behind its back.
Yeah. Next one, bleach bottle empty.
Right, bleach bottle empty. So we've got to look at this logically. Where do we put bleach? Bleach goes down the toilet. Bleach, when you get it, will be concentrated, but putting it into the toilet, you're obviously mixing it with cistern water, so you are diluting that. Two fundamentals between drains. So we have wastewater, which is drained away. Wastewater is going to go for water treatment. So anything that goes into the toilet, and I'm saying anything, don't put anything down the toilet, but bleach, if it goes down the toilet, will be treated once it goes back to water treatment facility. And then you've got rainwater drains. So rainwater drains would drain into rivers and streams. So people need to be aware of the two. There's a difference. One has a protection barrier in front of it, i.e. the waste treatment. One doesn't at all, and it will be floating past you in a stream soon if you were to put it down that way. Now bleach, because it can go down the toilet, you've got a residual amount of liquid in the bottle. You can pour that down the toilet, finish it, maybe rinse it out in the sink. so there's none left in there. You've now created a plastic bottle that is fully recyclable.
Yeah. Okay.
Have the bleach in the bottle. That is a hazardous waste and needs to be disposed of correctly, transported correctly, consignment notes, data logs with the EA, proof of disposal, proof of collection. You see the difference in it. So there is a difference in having one bleach bottle empty-ish residual and a pallet of bleach bottles. So this is where awareness training comes in. We can help people to actually understand the difference between the two. And then understand, I mean, it's not even cheats. It's like if you just rinse that little bit of bleach out, that bottle can be recycled. And that's where our training comes in, because it is that you have to have an amount of confidence in what you're saying to be able to make that call. So what we don't want to find is the bleach bottle with a little bit in it in the general waste bin. But we need to empower people to be able to make that call and just go, right, okay, that's it. Now, it may be the case that we have to write that into process. So we write into like a waste flow, recycling flow chart. We'll identify what materials there are, and we will literally say, plastic bottle, empty bleach, rinsed out into the plastic bottle recycling bin.
You can find more about our training at eswm.org.uk/water-waste. And this is, again, a great example of where the rules at home might be slightly different to the rules in work. Because personally, I've never rinsed a bleach bottle out at home, and it just goes in the general waste or the recycling waste bin.
Yeah.
But actually, when you're in a workplace and you're creating 100 of them, 200 of them together, that's when the risk escalates to
100%. And I think it is a case of, can we police everyone's bin at home? I think that would be quite a challenge. But again, it comes back to awareness training. So what we find is we've done lots of work with the schools, primary schools, secondary schools, right? And we've done waste awareness, recycling awareness days with them. And what we find is that those children are good anyway. Like they know their stuff. We're just kind of reinforcing what they know, give them a bit of confidence, give them some fun to do. But they go home, they police their mum and dad. So if they put mum and dad goes to put a can in the bin, can't go in there, mummy, can't go in there, daddy, it's got to go in the right spot. So that is awareness, that is giving people that power, autonomy to actually make decisions on what they're doing. So I look at the commercial environment as the training ground. So, what we've had for children coming up through it now, it's just standard for them. Like they're always going to do it. I'm talking to people that recycling in their career is relatively a new thing. Oh, we never had to do this. We never did that. So there's a culture change that we have to do it. Some people, like if you go to take the desk bins, probably the biggest culprit of contaminated waste, but try and take their desk bin away, it's all like suddenly possessive. This is like their third child. Take my bin away. What are you going to do? We did it in a company, and all the PAs complained in because they had their own bin, and then it was the case that the PAs managed to keep their own bins, and everyone else lost theirs. Now the PAs kept their bins for about 2 months until it was like, come on, it has to be fair. But that's what it is. You go through things in phases, and you pick your battles. So we're not going to be able to turn the tables on everybody's bin at home. You need people to sort of run that from their heart, because they're not being watched. Yeah. And you can make that decision. If you want to put batteries in your bin, probably no one's going to stop you, but you are going to cause environmental impact. So somewhere down, that battery could end up getting superheated and explode and hurt somebody. But you've got that little battery and it's out of your way now and you're okay. So again, it is about if we can capture them and get that audience within the commercial environment, and it just becomes natural. But you've got to educate people. You can't just assume that they're going to know everything and they're going to know the right thing to do. So that's kind of where I come from. I understand where our clients are coming from. Not only we have our contacts that we deal with, but they might have 200 people under them. That's 200 different people that have seen different things. Some live in Berkshire, some live in Hampshire, some live in London, some live in Wales. It's all different, and they are trying to create and place and put all this together to come up with some sort of logical pathway for them to follow. And it doesn't always make sense to them. So that's the key. You get in at a commercial level, you can teach them and give them that awareness, and then they take that home and they're clearer on what they have to do overall.
And sometimes it isn't just about people can't be bothered to do the correct way. Most often they just don't know, because rules, I guess, have sort of changed what's hazardous and what's not over the last sort of 10, 20 years.
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. Go back 20 years, maybe some people couldn't be bothered. It's really not the case now. We get all our customers, prospects that are coming in, people that are talking to us are really motivated. They really want to do this for multiple reasons. But that's really helpful to us, because if they don't, and it's funny, they don't even really always know the right questions, but they know they need sort of something. And when we go into a client, a recent one we had last week, and we were sitting with the environmental committee, and they were like, the staff need training, and I'm like, okay, what training do you need? Environmental stuff. Okay. So they know that there is a shortfall in their knowledge, but they don't know, and that's normal, isn't it? You don't go and do a maths lesson if you know maths. You go because you know there's a hole, right? So what we're trying to do in that initial stage is just open up and see those gaps. So like, where are they? What are they? Now, the only real way you can do that is one-to-one data gathering and do it. So we've got a series of processes that we work through with our clients to create these reports and action plans, and then physically doing it and getting it done, which is the key in it all. But that's where it has to start. So we need to find out what people know, what their knowledge are, where their gaps are, start to fill those knowledge gaps, and then just empower them. And then it just sort of spreads out. But it's got to be tailored. Like, every single one of our companies will do stuff slightly different. They've got less employees or more employees. They're near an area of outstanding natural beauty. They're in the centre of London. You know, there's all these various factors that we have to take into account in order for them to deliver their compliancy.
If you'd like to learn more about the gaps that you could uncover, visit eswm.org.uk/what-a-waste, where you'll find more mistakes around what audits uncover, the items that people never realise are hazardous, and the legal obligations that we must meet. So now we know the risks. Take us to the moment it goes wrong. Take us to the scene you've witnessed or heard about. The smell of burning, the smoke. Describe the panic that you're seeing.
Okay, so I obviously have to be careful in what I say. Obviously, all our clients are very important to us, and we would have a confidentiality with them. We wouldn't share anything with that. But if I can talk a roundabout way, so imagine the scenario: purpose-built facility, probably 100,000 square foot, prime area, has been built to really flex the company's global position. This facility will house at any one time £500 million worth of equipment that can come and go. It comes there to get fixed and goes back out again. About a month into that building going live, we get a phone call, and someone's found a rag next to one of these multi-million pound items, and it's been left there overnight, and it's black, and they are panicking. They've just found it in time before it exploded into flames. And what this was just a rag that they'd have a particular substance on. And going back to our class 5.1, our oxidizers, right? So these are particular substances that have the attributes of reacting to air. So they react with air. Oxygen is the final element that's missing to create the fire, right? So the oxidizer is sat on this rag. The rag is literally underneath one of these items. So had it gone, it would have burnt that down. It would have potentially burnt the whole facility down, taken quite an amount of items with it. And this is a company that's used those materials for years.
How do we stop this? So what do you do when you go in?
I don't panic. It's probably the first thing to do. My clients will normally come to me in a state of like, oh, what am I going to do? You know, no one wants to get in trouble. I think the first thing is to assess the situation. Like, no one's hurt, right? We haven't had what we thought, so it's a near miss. And then how do we address it and stop it happening? And the good thing is, it's really possible and quite simple to stop it happening, but you've got to put the right processes in place for it. So that's the first bit. It's just like, right, okay, let's assess the situation. So what we did in that situation is our gap's been identified by the near miss. So when we're talking about creating our bespoke training systems for awareness, that is half the battle for us. What's the problem? There's the problem. People are using a substance and they're not aware of the dangers of using that substance and knock-on effects of it. So we boil it down to who are the people involved in it, who has direct use of this substance, and we create an awareness training for them. Now, I can't really deliver the awareness training until I've put in the infrastructure to actually contain that waste. So what we did in that instance is they had a range of color-coded bins put in. The color-coded bins had matching colored liners that went in all of them. And then the color of those liners then correlated with a UN-approved drum that was in their hazardous waste storage area. So what you then start to do, what you're trying to make these things as easy as possible, right? We have to appreciate that in this country of ours, we have all sorts of different people from all different countries. They all speak different languages. We need to make sure that we're giving them all the same level of training, right? So a language barrier can't be a blocker for us, right? So we have to, how do we overcome that? So we would create the training documents in whichever language the client needs. But then we also come away from language, hence the color code system. So one of the issues, again, with our risk assessment of doing this, so look, we put a load of color-coded bins in and we put clear bags in. What happens when they take that bag out and then maybe 10 minutes has passed before they get to the waste store, and then they're like, what bin did that one come from? The color code system means that that's out of the picture now. It doesn't matter. So they just say orange bag, orange drum, boom, goes in there. So we're taking out the need for language for that communication. Now, written word, we can also replace with diagrams. So we have that extra little bit, and then we back that up with a training document that they can refer back to at any point that has the color code systems, the picture of the bins, the picture of the drums, and also like any special details. So like for this one, it would have been like special attention. There's one particular substance that we use. It's used on this application. These are the dangers of it. This is how we have to handle it. We'll write that off. We'll train it. We'll sign that off. Now we'll put a level to that risk. And on something like that, because the potential for it to go wrong is severe and it's quick and its potential is relevant, it could happen quite easily. We would do refresher training on that every 3 months. Now that is something we'll create the documents that will allow the client to do that in-house. And then maybe as part of our job, we would go in on a yearly basis, then audit that. But in what we want to be able to do is create this system, do the initial awareness training, maybe do some top-up training, bits and bobs, but really we want to be able to hand that back to the client there, and then we're just back-end collecting, processing, disposing correctly, doing it all in, coming in if need be, but again, we need to give that ownership back to the client. You know, we do all the technical bits in the background, all the stuff that they don't need to to really be involved with, and we provide them with the finished, polished, wrapped package. Here you go. And then when their auditors come in, they can handle their auditors. And then if they need us to come in to support them on an audit, then we can do that. But our systems, once they're implemented, the training's been given, it's been running, we've addressed any teething issues and all the rest of it, and that system should be good to go until we have like a change in regulation or something like that.
So most of the danger disappears when you've got the right system and right processes in place. If you'd like to find out more, please look up eswm.org.uk/water-waste on how environmental solutions can support you. So, if we fix the placement of the bins, do you fix 80% of your errors? Is it that simple?
You got to have the right bins. Yeah. I think that's one of the first bits. You've got to have bins in good areas that people can use and access, that are clearly labelled, marked, colour-coded, whatever works for them really. But then it can get a bit more than that. I say your bins is probably your last line. That's the last. Once it gets into the bins, it's kind of like it's not a lot can be done once it's in there. So it's all about the 3 or 4 steps before it goes into the bins, and I think that's the key bit. So those initial steps prior to it being deposited into the bin would be make sure we've got the right bins. So what wastes are we creating? What's the volumes of the waste we're creating? What legislations are there that will have an impact on what bins? So like with the new simpler recycling that came in March, April time this year, that was the introduction of food recycling, amongst other things. Now, one of the things that was confusing for all of us in the industry was that there was an official memo by Scotland and Wales, and they were saying, right, you need to be producing a minimum of 5 kilos of food waste per week and have 10 or more full-time employees, then you would justify a food bin. Now in England, it was no minimum qualifying weight quantity. So I obviously had my clients coming to me saying, do I need to get, if we don't produce any food waste? And that's when like the grey area comes. And this is where the confusion, I think, the government makes great legislation and I can see the impact and the potential that it has. And it, of course, they've done amazing things with it. But like we've seen, and it's funny, again, go back 150 years, right? When the first 1871 first Clean Air Act came out, it takes years for these things to really come in. Hence why I said to you about like amendments, because the initial thing, and it's like, oh, actually in working, that doesn't really work too well. We need to add some extra bits in. We need to now, so the amendment to that Clean Air Act was banning the burning or the production of black smoke. So something in there, people found a little loophole and they were like, oh, right, okay, so it says I can't do this, but it doesn't say anything about that. And then that's when they did. Then the black smoke, if you think about it, so what does the black smoke do? So the burning of black smoke, okay, so if that's banned, now that's quite a good way to find out if someone's breaking the act, because it's black smoke. So there's your flag, there's your red flag, if you like, right? Mr. Smith at number 48 is burning, and I see the black smoke coming out. So they banned that. So then it made it ultimately easier for them to enforce it. And what you find is as these acts develop, it's really about enforcement and it's about punishment and it's about being able to deliver those. So where the Environment Agency back in the day had its hands tied a little bit with regards to actual prosecution, gloves are off now. Like they've worked that bit out. So even like with my permit, what I'm doing and signing off against and adhering to and making my commitments to is that I will adhere to all those laws and acts and legislations and regulations. I need to know all of those acts, but there's no excuse now.
That's fantastic information, Gareth. What 3 things could our listeners do today to start making that difference?
I would say perform a gap analysis on your company. involve your staff, find out where any holes are, anywhere anything needs plugged. Then from that, second thing would be your education. So learn, go onto the websites, do your searches on Google, go onto the gov.uk website. And the third thing, if there's stuff left over that you're still unsure about, that's when you call us. So you give us a call, I come in, one of my team will come in and we'll go through full audits and do your gap analysis and then deliver your action plan, and then we get moving.
That's the simple step. So, if you're staring at a cupboard of chemicals and don't know what to do, call Gareth and his team or visit eswm.org.uk/water-waste. Gareth, thank you for keeping us safe, and join us next time for another deep dive on water waste.